In this video, I'm going over the questions from quiz number 2. So again, make sure if you ever need to pause the video to find the question on your version, because remember, I'm going to be following version A, just make sure to do that. Question number 1, again on version A, so make sure you find the question number on your version. Notice how here in question number 1, you're given that C is less than 0, which is shown here, negative C all together in parentheses, and A is a positive integer. So notice how this is showing that this is a positive exponent. So with a positive exponent, I don't need to write the fraction like 1 over the radical. So with a positive exponent, I'm not going to choose A or B. That means here, because the whole value, negative C, is inside the parentheses altogether, then it needs to be altogether inside the parentheses. So that's why the answer is C and not B. Now, question number 2. Notice how here, make sure when you're following the exponent rules, bases have to be the same. So notice how here we have our 8 over 8, 5 over 5. So with dividing, we are going to subtract the exponents. So with that base of 8, we are going to subtract. So here we've got 1/4 minus 6/4, top to bottom, making that negative 5/4. So then with the base of 5, we're going to subtract the exponents of 2/7 minus negative 1/7. Notice how here, right, again, top to bottom. Notice how we have that negative. Watch your signs, because now that we end up adding here. 2/7 and that 1/7 making 3/7. But this is not the final answer, because notice how you have a negative exponent. So whenever you have that negative exponent, we need to write that fraction answer. So I'm going to mark off C and D. I can also mark off B because of the 5 to the 1/7 when we have 5 to the 3/7. So that's why here the answer is A. Question number 3 and 4 were on the transformation. So with question number 3, make sure you find it on your version. We are compressing vertically. So vertically means this needs to be on the outside of the radical. So I need 1/2 on the outside of the radical. So I'm going to go ahead and mark off A because the 1/2 was given inside. Then here we are translating 2 units down. So again, this is down. So with your vertical, this is also outside. So -2 because we're going down. So I need -2. So I'm going to mark off B because this says +5 on the outside. Then last is 5 units to the right. So now remember, this needs to go inside, but remember, think opposite. So if this is 5 units to the right, that means I need inside x -5. So that's why the answer is D. So again, here, notice on the outside, you have your vertical. Here on the outside here, you also have -2, so 2 units down. And then remember, anything inside the radical is opposite. So even though we want to say that this is to the left 5, this is actually to the right 5. So again, everything matches, and that's why you get D. Question number 4. Here, we're looking for what transformations? Well, again, notice how you have a negative on the outside. So this does represent a reflection, when the negative is on the outside over the x-axis. So I'm going to mark off A and C because they say y-axis. Then I do notice here that all the other answer choices focus on 1 unit up. So we're good on this being our 1 unit up. Actually here, so let me show that. So 1 unit up. Then notice how we have this value of 2, but on the inside. So remember, anything inside the radical is now horizontal. So this is our horizontal compression, but by 1/2. So that's why the answer is B. Again, remember, anything on the inside is opposite. So if this is our horizontal, that means B is not equal to 2, B is equal to 1/2. So that's why the answer is B. Question number 5. So again, remember when multiplying, we're going to add the exponents, but also remember with the square root that you have this index of 2. So don't forget about that index of 2. So really this is 10 over 2 times 5 over 2. And again, remember, right, we are adding the exponents. So this now becomes h to the 15 over 2. So that's why here the answer was D. Then question number 6. We are solving this radical equation, but before you can square or get rid of the radical, notice how you're adding 7. So we need to subtract 7 to get the radical by itself. Now we've got here x minus 7 is equal to the square root of 21 minus 3x. Now we can square both sides because the radical is by itself. Radical goes away here, so I've got 21 minus 3x, but notice here, guys, that's x minus 7 times itself. So you do have to do box method, x minus 7 times x minus 7. So here you get x squared, negative 7x, negative 7x, and positive 49. So after combining like terms, right, on the diagonal, you have x squared minus 14x plus 49. Now we're going to go through because remember, we're solving a quadratic, x squared, and quadratics always have to equal 0. So we need to subtract 21, line up the like terms, and add 3x here, lining up the like terms to get this equation to equal 0. So we're going to solve the quadratic x squared minus 11x plus 28. Then what factors are now going to multiply to get 28 and add to get negative 11? Negative 7 and negative 4, which means x is equal to 7 and 4. But before we say that A is our answer, let's check. Remember here, focus on substituting. So if the value here is negative, it is not a solution, but if it's positive, it is a solution. So 7, well, what is 7 minus 7? Well, 7 minus 7 is 0. So even though it's 0, still not a negative. So 7 is a solution. Now let's check 4. 4 minus 7, which is negative 3. Notice how you have a negative value, which will never equal a positive, because remember, we're going to focus on positive when simplifying the radical. So 4 is extraneous. That's why the answer is D. Only x can only equal 7. So then question number 7. Notice here, same thing. Remember, this 1/3 is like we're solving a cubed root. So we do have a radical here, but it's being multiplied by 3. So first you need to divide by 3 if that value is being multiplied. Now we've got x plus 18 to the 1/3 power, which is now equal to 4. Now I can raise and get rid of that exponent of 1/3. What is the reciprocal of 1/3? 3. We're going to raise both sides to the 3rd power. That eliminates the exponent. Bring down what's left inside, x plus 18, which is equal to, be careful because that's not 12. That's 4 to the 3rd power, which is 4 times 4 times 4, making that 64. So now notice the last step. All you have to do is subtract 18 from both sides, and you get x is equal to 46, which gives the answer of B. Question number 8, which was the graph on domain and range. So notice with the domain and range, with our half graph here, our square root value, we have our starting point, which is here at 2, 4. So we're starting at 2, 4. This is my x, this is my y. And notice we're continuing on. Now, I could just look at answer choices and go, well, I notice the domain is not going to be all reals, negative infinity to infinity, or range, because it's a half graph. We have a starting point at 2, 4. So A is not the answer. I also noticed that D is not the answer because they said that X is starting at the value of 4, when really x's are starting at the value of 2. So D is not the answer. So from this starting point, notice how domain, right? That's your x's. So we're looking at left and right. So from the starting point, the graph is going to the right. Well, notice to the right is towards all the positive, towards the greater than. So this is greater than or equal to. So that's why the answer is C and not B, because this says less than. Then let's also check. From here, what direction now do we need to go? Down. So down focuses on less than or equal to, which matches here our range. That's why the answer is C. Now question number 9. Notice how we're multiplying. So in multiplying, you add the exponents, but only for the bases that are the same. So notice how we have x and x here. So we do nothing with the y. So I still need y to the 1/7 in my answer. Now when multiplying, add the exponents. So -2 plus 3, right? Because that's -2/7 plus 3/7, which makes that x to the 1/7. So that's why here the answer is B. Then question number 10, with our radical equation. Notice how here we got our radical by itself, so I can square both sides to get rid of our radical. Radical goes away, and it also cancels out on the right side. So we end up just bringing down 7x minus 11, which is equal to 6 minus x. Now I'm going to go through and solve. Anytime I have a negative, I'm going to go ahead and add x here to both sides. Now I've got 8x minus 11 is equal to 6. Now you're just solving a two-step. Add 11 to both sides. 8x is now equal to 17, and divide by 8, which is why the answer is A. So now with the bonus question, this is a application problem with our radical. Notice how here, as you're kind of going through, the person's eye level 8. So eye level is represented by H above sea level, and D is in kilometers to the horizon. So thinking about that like distance. And we're using the formula right here. D is equal to 3.57 times the square root of H. So now this person, Becky, can see 7.8 kilometers to the horizon. So what does the 7.8 represent? Well, the 7.8 represents D, because D is kilometers to the horizon. Kilometers to the horizon. So then that means Timothy can see 8.9 kilometers to the horizon. So again, 8.9 also represents D for Timothy. How much higher is Timothy's eye level above sea level than Becky? So we have to figure out first off, what is the height or eye level for both of them? So let's do, you know what? Let's do Becky first. So Becky, right? D is equal to 7.8. So we're going to use the formula. Well, D is equal to, well, D is 7.8. So 7.8 is equal to 3.57 times the square root of 8. Now we're solving this radical equation, right? We can't square both sides and get rid of the radical because it's being multiplied by 3.57. So you need to divide by 3.57. That cancels out. So when you divide by that 3.57, you end up with approximately, sorry about that, 2.18. Then that is the square root of h is equal to that. Now we can get rid of the radical because it's by itself, which is square both sides. So now here, when you square that, you get that Becky's eye level above the sea level is going to be approximately 4.77. So now we're going to do Timothy. So Timothy, D is equal to 8.9. So notice how we're going to use the same formula again. 8.9 is now equal to 3.57 times the square root of h. And yet again, we're solving that radical, so you need to divide both sides by 3.57. So now when you divide that 8.9 by 3.57, you get approximately 2.49, which is still approximately the square root of 8. Now we can get rid of the radical, right, because it's by itself, and square both sides. So here, Timothy's eye level is approximately, after squaring that value, 6.22. Now we need to know how much higher is Timothy's eye level than Becky. So if Timothy is at 6.22 and Becky is at 4.77, what do we need to do last to figure out the how much higher Timothy's eye level is? Subtract. So all you now have to do is subtract those two approximations and you get approximately 1.45 meters.